Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. Okay, so I was not intending on watching Attack on Titan tonight. I was gonna watch another reaction. I watched episode 3 last night and was like, ah! And so I was like, no, I need to take a few days break. And then as fate would have it, someone in my neighborhood hit the internet cable and there's no internet. So I was really sad at first. I was like, there's no internet. I was like, I was gonna react to something tonight. I was like, And then I thought about it and I was like, wait, I have the Attack on Titan season 4 episode saved on a flash drive. I don't need the internet. So I was like, yes. So as fate would have it, I'm going to be watching episode 4 tonight because of it. So it's meant to be, right? It's meant to be. But as such, I don't really have a lot of comments going into this episode. So the intro is not going to be very long in this. As I'm recording this, episode 22 is going to come out on episode 22 of season 3 is going to come out on YouTube tomorrow, and episode 2 of season 4 is going to come out on Patreon. So I've not got any new comments. Most of those I addressed in the last episode, so this will be a pretty short intro. But I did make a couple little comments before going into this based on rewatching episode 3. God, that episode's heavy. Really heavy. And some people on Twitter were like, it's all heavy. And I'm like, But I feel so bad for Reiner, because now we know about his character. It all makes sense. I feel really sympathetic for him. And I didn't think I would feel this way about Reiner of all characters going into this final season. But God, I pulled up the episode, and again, there's no thumbnails, but it just shows you the first frame of the episode, and it's Reiner. And God, he looks old. He's only supposed to be like 21, but he's aged so much. And it's just from war and depression and sadness and everything. It's just taken a toll on him. I did have a couple of comments before we start. One being that Falco is kind of like the center influence in all of this at this point. Falco, his name, oddly enough, going towards, birds and freedom and, alluding to that. But Falco, Reiner sees a lot of himself in Falco. Reiner sees a lot of himself within Falco, and he also looks at Falco as like a form of salvation for him. Like, it's keeping him going. He's like, I've got to protect these kids, and it makes my life have meaning. And it's like, okay. And then Eren, on the other hand, is also looking at Falco as being like, okay, you're a Marleyan warrior candidate, but you're not corrupted yet. And he's like trying to reach out to him as maybe like a middle way, right? And I also wondered about this too. Eren has hypothetically had 4 years to interact with his father's memories. So I'm wondering if he knows Falco's last name is Grice, if he's put 2 and 2 together. It's very funny that we see Eren having this conversation with Falco on the bench, and it's like a mirror of when Falco's relative Grice had the conversation with Grisha back in the flashback in episode 20. It's like a cool mirror of that. It's like, man, just who knew, right? So the other notes I had on here was I wondered if Reiner knew that Levi and them, that they had the injection. Because at this point, I'm assuming that he probably thinks Annie is still somewhere behind enemy lines. But I wonder if he knows if Bertholdt has died and Armin has taken... I wonder if Reiner knows that someone has taken the Colossal Titan, or if they think that Bertholdt is like Annie and just held up and locked up somewhere. Because I was trying to think back. I was going to look it up, and then there wasn't any internet for me to do so. But I was going to look it up. But I think back in episode 18, when Zeke comes to rescue Reiner... And Zeke rescued Reiner too. That's another one to add to the list. God, everybody's rescuing Reiner. And Peak rescued him too. Everybody's rescuing Reiner in this arc. I feel bad for him. He is Princess Peach. Reiner is Princess Peach. He's been rescued so many times. But Reiner, before he was rescued, I was trying to think back and see if Hanji had said... I thought that Hanji and Jean were talking about the injection and about using the injection and eating him. So based on that, I think Reiner knows that they had an injection and that they could use it, or maybe he was out of wits and didn't, put 2 and 2 together. I don't know, but I wonder if Reiner knows that Bertholdt's dead and that someone's taken over his power, or if he thinks he's just a prisoner of war. I don't know. You would assume that they would have said they've killed him, because otherwise, that's the Colossal Titan. It's hard to take that as prisoner of war, without just constantly cutting his arms and stuff off. Like you do. Again, I'm curious how Eren, without his leg, is going to turn into a Titan shifter. If that's going to work. I have so many questions, but I'm watching ahead because I don't want to be spoiled, so I guess we'll find out. And then I wanted to note that there is a connection between Reiner and Zeke. So Reiner is half Marleyan, And Zeke is technically half royal family. So he's got Dinah's royal blood half of him, and Reiner has the Marleyan blood in half of him. So that's very interesting. It's kind of a cool dynamic. And then I wanted to make a contrast, going back and rewatching episode 1, because I've rewatched the episode a lot. But Zeke saying it's funny because Zeke and Eren both talk about war. Zeke is like, isn't war a terrible thing? And the way that Zeke says it, it's almost like tongue-in-cheek. It's almost sarcastic. And then you get to Eren, who's like, isn't war a terrible thing? And looking directly into the camera and telling you that, yes, it's really bad. So it's funny that you have these two half-brothers talking about war and making these dramatic lines as such. And the way that it's phrased is slightly different. So it's very, very curious. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to dive into this episode. This is the 4th episode. After this episode, we are a 4th of the way through season 4, part 1. Only a 4th. I feel like I've watched half a season. Only a 4th. The good news is the season is not going by fast. There's a lot to take in. That's the good thing, I guess, at least. It's not flying by. Season 3 felt like it was gone in a flash, but this season it's definitely holding its weight, right? So we've got that, and I've been told that there's a post-credit scene. So I've been told this episode and episode 11 have a post-credit, so we'll go with that. But in any case, I don't know what's going to happen when Reiner and Eren meet. That's going to be insanity, especially after last episode when we saw all those parallels between them and Reiner thinking about his conversations with Eren. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. I talked to somebody on Twitter and Patreon, was like, man, it just feels like just a grenade's being packed. And they were like, yeah, no, it's a nuke. Get ready. I'm like, so the ice cream may have to come out. I don't know. If Reiner dies, I'm serious, y'all. I've really grown to like Reiner. And I'm sorry, the thumbnail in the last 3 episodes has been Reiner, but it's not that I'm simping for him. It's that his character has just had this amazing development. And I'm like, where has this been? And it feels like the whole series has led up to this, which it has. So I feel like Reiner is such an incredibly tragic and beautiful character in this. And I just am afraid that he's going to die because the death flags are out. We've got his backstory. It wasn't sudden backstory. It was like a series-long backstory. But now that it's out there, either Reiner is going to be in-game and make it till the very end or close to the very end, or he's going to die like before the midway point here. And I don't know what it is, but I'm going to be really sad. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm going to be really sad if he dies. So let's dive in, shall we? It's episode 4. Won't be anything bad. Will be a great episode. Not worried about it. Nothing crazy is going to happen. We just had a few small revelations. It's fine. But yeah, let's do this. Let's not hold off anymore. We're going to start episode 4 of season 4 of Attack on Titan here in 3, 2, 1, and I'll see y'all on the other side. This was a weird episode. A very weird episode. You know why it was a weird episode? Because it was a setup episode, but there was this creepy looming feeling throughout the entire episode. And the weird thing is this was a setup episode, but yet it's like Isayama is setting things up, but not revealing what he's setting up, right? You can feel that it's a setup episode. You're like, okay, things are going down, things are like pieces on the board are being placed, but it's like Isayama took a bunch of chess pieces and he's like, I'm going to stick them on the board here, but I'm not going to tell you where I'm going to place them. Just know that there's pieces on the board and you'll figure it out later. I feel like there were pieces laid down, things were set up, but we as the audience weren't explicitly told what they were. So I feel like it's all going to come crashing down in the next episode or 2. And we just have to sit back and watch it all crumble. And I'm like, I don't like that. It felt like a murder mystery at the start of this whole thing with the Willy and the Tyburs. We're going to talk about them. The antithesis of the Reiss family, basically. Yeah, we're going to talk about them and that whole deal. We're going to talk about that, and just, it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating, because I'm like, okay, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of connections between the Tyburs and the Reisses that I've noticed, and it's interesting, but I think what was unsettling about this episode is that it's like Isayama tries to mask the dread with like the fun festival and the kids having fun, and you think for a second, you almost get fooled by it. You're like, oh, the kids are having fun, ha ha ha. But no, in the back of your head, you're thinking stuff's being set up, and the bomb is the pin is about to be pulled. The finger's on the pin of the grenade, and and the moment when Reiner walked into the basement, I was like, oh my, a basement, how fitting in a cellar, how fitting that he goes into the basement. Interesting. Oh my gosh. The moment that they said Falco's off with his friend, I was like, oh, he's off with Eren. Or Mr. Kruger, which we'll talk about that. He's off with Eren. Sure. And then the moment that Falco's like, come into the basement, I was like, nope, that's Eren down there. I'm like, Eren's waiting on you. It's all been set up. Oh my God. Oh my God. You all have no idea how much I want to watch the next episode, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait a couple days. I'm going to wait a couple days and let this one sink, because I have a feeling that what I write up here on Whiteboard Coon just needs to come out and be here. He's on the ready, because this season, I don't think there's going to be an episode when I don't use Whiteboard Coon. I don't think it's possible. Nah. But I was just like, I need a few days to process this episode. Whenever I watch 2 episodes of Attack on Titan back to back, it's a bad idea, because I spend like 2 hours talking about them, and then my brain like goes into overdrive. I've had the OP on repeat in my brain all day long. It was a really stressful day at work, and I've just been sitting there like doing like the the banging of the OP over and over again. Does wonders. But yeah, I feel like I'm gonna need a few days to process this episode. But Willy Tybur, also Isayama, you and your names, Willy, Kenny, Uri. Like, Uri sounds at least royal. Willy is just a weird name for a character. Willy. I'm from the Midwest in the US, so anytime I hear Willy, I think of banjos playing, but this guy is the opposite of banjos, and the opposite of Uri. So we're going to talk about him. He's an interesting character. But yeah, Reiner and Eren, I've been waiting this whole time to see when they're going to meet up, and it's a lot sooner than I expected. I expected it to be like halfway through this part 1 before they'd even meet, but nope, it's now. So, crap. So there's a lot to go in this episode. Like I said, Isayama's setting a lot of things up and doing it in a very subtle way, like a suspiciously subtle way. And we also haven't seen, Eren's been at this hospital, and I'm assuming he's been sending letters to the Levi squad. I'm assuming his family, he's been sending letters to the Levi squad to tell them what's going on and to get them intel and to remind them what's happening. And so I assume that that's the case. So the question is, Connie, and we know Connie and Jean are there, because I'm sure that the mystery man is Jean. I'm sure. And I thought I saw Connie on the rooftop in episode 2, like jumping down from Reiner's house. So I'm assuming the Levi squad, or at least part of the Levi squad, is there in Marley, ready for whatever is about to happen to this operation. Holy crap. Whatever's about to go down is what they're there for. And so I have a feeling like next episode, the Tybur guy is going to make whatever announcement. We're going to talk about that, because there's some weird discussions going on here, but we're going to talk about whatever his theatrical performance is going to tie in with Eren dropping bombshells on Reiner, who, as we've learned in the last episode, really doesn't need any bombshells dropped on him. Reiner's pretty tore up right now as it is, and you're going to traumatize him some more? Cool. And then Falco's involved in all this now, and Gabi and them are there, and everyone's conveniently gathered in this one location, and it seems like this is all of Zeke's doing, so I'm curious like how this is going to tie into Zeke. God, everything is connecting at this one theatrical performance, and holy crap. Okay. So let's talk about this episode. I'm like floored, because I don't know how to feel. The last episode was so emotional, and I knew how I felt at the end of the episode. I felt sympathy for Reiner, and I felt bad for him in the circumstances that he's in, and I was shocked by Eren's arrival into this. But now, this episode, I don't know how to feel. I feel nervous, and it's lulled us into a false sense of security, this whole festival deal, and I'm like, no, there's some sinister stuff going on below the surface, and I don't like, it's that JonTron meme where he's like, I don't like where this is headed. I'm like, no, I don't either. No. Okay, so I'm going to turn, as you heard Reiner, I'm going to turn this off. All right, so, yeah, so Falco, our dear messenger boy. Falco, our messenger boy, saying, and he's so much shorter than Reiner. Reiner's gotten so tall. He says, I forgot something back at HQ, so I'm going to go back and get it. And he's so happy. He doesn't look suspicious at all because he's not suspicious. He doesn't know any different. He's just doing a favor for a friend, right? And Reiner's like, okay, like, you seem like nothing suspicious here. And Falco's so happy, and because Eren's like, hey, can you do me a favor, friend? And what's that, Mr. Kruger? Oh my God, Mr. Kruger. The fact that Eren is using the name of the man whose his name is from, it's genius. And it makes sense because I was talking about this in the OP, but theoretically, if all the people at the dock died, and the people that came and found them thought that something bad just happened, like there was a Titan attack and something went out of hand, something went amok, right? They wouldn't know any different. They wouldn't know that it was Kruger that caused the incident, right? They wouldn't know that Kruger was the attack Titan, because if everybody died there and they came back and found the wreckage, they wouldn't have known what would have happened. They'd been like, okay, there was a disaster, a Titan attack or something happened, but they wouldn't know exactly. So it makes sense. They wouldn't suspect the name Kruger as being suspicious because it's just a name there. There's no infamous ties to it, right? Nah. So not like Grice has ties to it as Eren's grandfather brings up. God, we'll get to that scene. But yeah, there's no ties to the name Kruger other than he was a guy that was a loyal member of the Marleyan military. And so for Eren to use that name, it makes perfect sense why he'd get away with it. Nobody would suspect him, right? It's pretty convenient. So yeah, Mr. Kruger, I want to send a letter, but if it's sent from the internment zone, they'll check it. So he wanted Falco to send it so it wouldn't get checked. Okay, so there's lots of different plays in order. Let's start with Eren. Let's start with Eren's deal. Everybody has an agenda. Let's go with what Eren's agenda is. We'll start with that on the side, shall we? So he's had Falco send unchecked letters, right, from inside Marley to various locations where I'm assuming that it's going to Levi Squad. Or I'm assuming the Levi Squad could be some of where the letters are going to. He's like, if it's sent from the internment zone, they'll check it. So I need you to send it, you know. And so, of course, Falco, he's like, yeah. And he's like, they might find out I'm not really sick. Could you send it from the outside? So he's trying just to pass off that he's not sick. And he's like, hey, I know I'm faking this. I don't want to go back home yet. Can you send this for me to my family? And that's when Falco asks, he's like, is it to your family? And he says, yeah, I just want to tell him I'm here and I'm doing fine. So, that line, I'm here and I'm doing just fine. So at the time, before the end of this episode, I was debating on who he was actually sending the letter to, if it was like a secret code. I think he's sending it to the Levi Squad to tell him that he's there and he's okay. He's inside Marley, everything's fine. He could also be sending it to... the Tyburs are suspicious. I don't know. Is he sending it to the Tyburs? Is he? I don't know. I'm like, are the Tyburs his friend or his enemy? That's going to be the question next episode. The question next episode is, are the Tyburs going to be Eren's friend or their enemy? Because I'm curious. I want to listen to that conversation with him a little bit more. But yeah, so I'm thinking he's sending it to the Levi Squad, telling him he's infiltrated Marley, he's finding stuff out, he's okay. Yep. And so then, yeah, and Falco doesn't really question where it's going to. He just puts it in the nice little red delivery box, and that's all there is to it. So yeah, so Eren's found a friend, and he's using them to send his letters back to correspondence to the Levi Squad. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay. So get out of this OP. God, from one hand to another. I'm going to write that. These titles are awesome. I really like these titles. But this one... from one hand to another. There's a lot of implications with this. When I first heard the title, I was like, okay, is this referring to like passing of the Titan powers from one hand to another? And then we saw him passing the letter, Eren passing the letter to Falco from one hand to another. And then we see them like sharing in the food and stuff at the festival from one hand to another. We get the talk of Willy and Magath and sharing the power of the military and everything from one hand to the other. And the idea of Zeke and Colt from one hand to another. And then at the very end, Reiner and Eren meeting up again. Yeah, everything's like transferring in this dialogue and communication. So I'm very curious. God, next episode, I cannot even tell y'all. I'm like so hyped. But yeah, so everybody's, why all the commotion? So Magath, the whole Tybur family has come to visit. We're going to put a little thing on Magath. Magath is interesting. I have a feeling, at first I thought Magath was just going to be, because Kozlo was the heavyset. Kozlo's the heavyset guy that's talking to him. I don't like Kozlo at all. Kozlo's kind of a slob. But Magath is interesting. I didn't figure that we would Magath. I didn't imagine that we'd spend a lot of time with Magath's character. I thought in episode 1 he was going to be that military general that we see and he like makes a scene or whatever, and then he like portrays Marley and is an embodiment of it, and then we never really see him again. But he has actually a part to play in this story, which is very interesting. So we have Magath. I'm going to write his name right if I can think about it. Magath. Interesting. So Magath, our old commander, he has a part to play in all this, which is fascinating, right? The whole Tybur family has come to visit. And he's like, excuse me? Everybody. And okay, there's like these British royal. So here's the thing. Again, we're going to do the Tybur family now because the Tybur family is quite intriguing, okay? So we have the Tybur family. And I'm going to make some general notes about the Tybur family. So they have their own private military, secret service, right? They have their own private service, these guys in the red coats. Again, I'm going to tie that kind of to the interior police with the Reisses. I'm going to make a little note about the Reiss family over here, because there's a lot of interesting parallels between the Tyburs and the Reisses, which it's almost like they're like the mirror version. It's kind of weird, okay? It's kind of weird. So yeah, Magath looks around and then Kozlo says it's the Tyburs' personal guard. They're not part of our military, meaning they don't answer to Magath or Kozlo. They answer only to the Tyburs, which is kind of how like the anti-personnel squad, they really only answered to Uri and Rod and them. They were like a private military for them too. And so was the interior police. So interesting. And then this big giant man that's like come in. He's huge. I'm like, holy crap. Okay. This guy's like enormous. Willy. Oh, Willy. Willy, head of the Tybur family. So we're going to talk about Willy. Willy, I'm going to elaborate on this later, but Willy strikes me as like the anti-Uri. He's like the anti-Uri. And the reason I say that, like right off the get-go, is there's something uneasy about him. There's something I don't trust. And with Uri may have had faults, but I always felt like in watching the scenes with Uri had this like warmth and kind of compassion to him, especially when he was talking to Kenny. He had like this warmth and compassion that you just kind of felt like, yeah, he has flaws, and maybe because of the Founding Titan, his like whole perspective about paradise is a little skewed, but he felt like he was genuine. He does not feel genuine. I get bad vibes. It's almost like, it's like Lucifer. It's like the Christian embodiment of the devil, that Willy seems like he has that beautiful angelic presence. And we're going to talk about that at the dinner party. He has this beautiful angelic presence and he seems like such a great person, but there's something wrong there. There's something, I get bad vibes. I don't like it. It's felt like a Lucifer thing. It felt like the devil. We're going to talk about that. I got bad vibes from old Willy right off the bat. But yeah, I'm Willy, head of the Tybur family, with his beautiful long Sephiroth blonde hair. And then Theo, I'm commander of the warrior unit, Magath. So yeah, I'm going to put down here, commander of the warrior unit. Specifically. All right. So this whole conversation, it's very interesting. And again, we're getting ties to the Reiss family here. So in order to meet you, I guess maybe he seems like the anti-Uri, but if you were looking at the Reiss family, he'd be like the Reiss of the Reiss family, right? He would be like the Reiss equivalent. Allow me to introduce you to my family. And at this point, it was kind of like a murder mystery. It was kind of like, which one of us is the Warhammer? You figure it out. And I'm like, and I feel like there's a lot of red herrings, and I feel like Isayama, because you would think from the outside of things that Willy would be the Warhammer. That seems like the most logical, right? That Willy's the Warhammer. But I want to go back and re-listen to this conversation because part of me thinks he's not, and part of me thinks he is. So I want to go back and listen to this and check this. I want to pause too. And it's just utter chaos. There's like kids everywhere screaming. They're like all over the place. It's like, what is even happening? I feel like it's the antithesis of the Reiss family, who were like this model picture of perfection. The Reiss family, they were like all like compassionate, kind, saintly family, that nothing's wrong here. And these kids are like running all over the place, like screaming. It's like, ugh. So you have the grandma and grandpa, right? You have the wife. You have the wife there, and they're all looking there. And the grandparents look very, they're dressed very religiously, like saintly. And then you have all these kids. So you got a blonde boy. Oh my God, there's like kids everywhere. You've got a little blonde boy. And you have a dark-haired boy. All right, and then you have a daughter. And you have a blonde daughter who seems older. All right. And she's holding down 2 more kids. And then you have another daughter who has dark hair. And it looks like another son with dark hair. Okay. So yeah, there's 5 children there. And then there's the maid. Oh my God. And they knock over the couch. And Magath, like there's a sweat drop on Kozlo's face. He's like, God, this family's a train wreck. And Magath is like, these kids are little monsters. They don't know how to act in public. It's like the kids have no bearing that there is someone important there. There's no politeness there. The kids are just running amok. And Willy is not concerned. There's like no manners. And I like that Magath just stares. And so then we say, having managed the warrior unit from the outset, are you able to tell which of us is the Warhammer Titan? So he's like, well, you've worked with Titan shifters all this time. You've worked with them for a long time. Which one of us is it? He's like, pick out which one of us is the Warhammer. Just go ahead and tell me. And Magath is like, I haven't a clue. One might wonder if it's even here at all. And I like that Willy's like, yeah, that's very astute. He's like, you're very astute, just like I heard, but it's here. I wonder if it's like the maid. If it's like, okay, if it's either the maid or if it's the really freaking tall guy that like let them in from the beginning. If it was that guard that just stared through their souls. If maybe, because you would think, part of me when he says that thinks that he's the Warhammer Titan. But, I don't know. He says the Warhammer Titan is among us. And you see the grandfather, the mom, and one of the boys. And then the grandmother. And then you see it looks like the 2 boys that look like almost twins. And the maid. And then the girl reading to the little girl. It's kind of like the blonde girl very much has like a Frida vibe to her, right? The blonde girl reading to the other little blonde girl, like, and it looks like a harp. Like oh man. Okay, so she's reading her a book, and I'm trying to look at the book, and the book has like a woman, and it looks like a harp. It almost looks like Jack and the Beanstalk, kind of. So I don't know, is the girl, if we're mirroring the Reiss family, is the tall blonde girl that's the oldest, is she the Warhammer? So, I don't know. If we're mirroring the whole Reiss family thing, and this guy, if Willy is representative of Rod and Uri, then it would make sense that the older blonde girl is the Warhammer. It would make sense, but I don't know. The Warhammer Titan is among us. And Magath looks back on them to try to see, like he's trying to piece it out. And we see that one guard. Again, maybe it's the guard. Who says that it's a family member? Who says that they don't just, it's not a bodyguard? I don't know. Willy is an interesting character. He's very handsome. He's very pretty. I don't trust him. He seems like he's got a lot of issues. And so, and Willy here, he's like, I came here to see the statue of Helos. And so, a century ago, a mere human slayed the devil of all earth. So, the caricature of Helos is very interesting. Like, his hat and his sleeves and everything. It's funny. We're going to talk about Helos. With the regalia and stuff. The statue of Helos. A mere human slayed the devil of all earth. Which, that's funny that he says that. And became the renowned Marleyan hero who saved the world. So, and there was a spear, right? And there was a spear. So, they established that Helos was a human, was a Marleyan, who slayed what looks like the founding Titan, maybe. Or at least, well, but they said Helos drove the founding Titan away. So, interesting. But, quote unquote, slayed the devil of all earth. Which you would think would mean the founding Titan. But we established a few episodes ago that the founding Titan left during the battle with Helos. So, if the founding Titan got away, then who is the devil of all earth that was slain? Or maybe slayed the devil of all earth meant just defeated. Maybe it just means defeated the devil of all earth and that drove him away. And then commanded the other Titans. But they have a spear, right? So Helos has a spear, not a hammer. I originally thought that Helos would be like the original Warhammer. But I'm not thinking so now. Right? And that image of just like the spear going through the Titan's like mouth and everything is crazy. Right? How marvelous. So brave and beautiful with not a scratch. So that makes me wonder, and this is theory time, don't confirm or deconfirm my theories. Let me wallow in my theories until they're woefully proven wrong. But is Helos an Ackerman? And I say that because of the spear. Is Helos an Ackerman? Because the whole statue is of it throwing a spear through the Titan. And we established in the flashbacks with Kenny that the Ackermans were the spear of the king, the spear of the founding Titan. So I wonder if Helos became the hero of Marley, so maybe not. It just seemed like with the whole spear thing and not getting a scratch on him, like they did what needed to be done. It had a very Ackerman vibe. His story had an Ackerman vibe to it. And I was like, okay, maybe Helos was an Ackerman, and some of the Ackermans ran off with the founding Titan. I don't know. We'll find out. Isayama's gonna tell us eventually. But yeah, Willy's in awe of Helos and like being brave and beautiful without even a scratch. The spirit of Marley. Like, he describes it as the spirit of Marley, the Helos is. Right? The idea of brave, beautiful, and untouchable. That's how Willy describes Marley. Brave and beautiful and untouchable. The spirit of it. And I love this. Right after that, and Magath says, the spirit indeed, for within it's empty inside. Oh, I love that. God, that's such a good line. Yep. And then, for within it's empty inside. God, Magath may be growing on me. He may be growing on me a little bit because that line, he's like, yeah, Marley's beautiful and people are brave and we seem untouchable, but we're all hollow inside. There's no substance to it. And last 2 episodes ago, Magath was watching all the Eldians like go back to their families and everything. I think that Magath puts on a big front and he is obviously a cog in the machine, but I believe that Magath is aware of just how far Marley has fallen, right? And I love that line. It's empty inside. Such a good line. And the Willy guy laughs at that. He's like, oh, you're a tough critic, Commander. And he's like, I hear you're working to reinstate Marley conscription. So conscription, I'm trying to think what conscription means. I wish I could look it up. I wish I could look it up, but the internet's off. So you're working to reinstate Marleyan's conscription. And then Magath says war for Marleyans exists solely inside their newspapers, saying that as far as Marley's concerned, their only interaction and their only understanding of the war is whatever they just read in the papers. They're not actually involved in it. The Marleyan people aren't at war. The Eldian people are the one that are getting sent out and fighting the battles. The Marleyan people just read about it in the newspapers and think everything's all hunky-dory. He's like, they're content to just read about our lands expanding. Yeah, Magath is commenting and saying that the Marley people are ignorant to the actual war. He's like, the Marley people don't know what's really going on. He's like, they just read whatever we tell them in the papers and they're content with it. They just know we're expanding our lands and they just say, oh, cool, great job. And they don't really think much about it or what's being, sacrificed to get them that. If our tamed devils or conquered enemies are eating the bullets, all the better. Yeah, so he's like, the Marleyan people don't care. It's not even their own people that are suffering. So they're like, hey, if we have to use the Eldians to win the battle, go for it. And so it's interesting that Magath tells him all this. Our hopes letting Marleyans hear the sound of one hopes letting Marleyans hear the sound of bullets whizzing by their ears. Will be enough to stop our self-destructive march towards war. Wow, okay. Damn, okay, Magath, my dude. So Magath is saying that Marley, he wants Marley to know about the truths of war, right? Because the way he sees it now, he sees Marley as on a self-destructive path towards war. That's interesting. So Magath's like, the Marleyan people need to know exactly what we're getting into because this whole thing's going to blow. Magath, I said in the last couple episodes, Magath is seeing the writing on the wall. He's seeing that he's been in charge of this Titan unit long enough. He's like, the rest of the world's catching up to us, and if we're not careful, it's going to get to a point where we're going to be obsolete and they're going to take advantage of us, right? And so Magath's kind of seeing the writing on the wall that we need to open up and start spitting some truth bombs out to the Marleyan people so they know what we're getting into. And I'm like, that's interesting that he tells Willy this. And some of you commented, like, I'm looking at Willy and his beautiful blonde hair, and I've been comparing them to the Reiss family. Someone commented on YouTube like a week ago. They were like, oh yeah, they're like, you think everybody's related to the royal family if they've got blonde hair. Armin, Kruger, Willy. Do I think the Tyburs are related to the royal family? I don't know. I don't think so. It'd be funny if they were, but I don't think that they are. I don't think they're related to the royal family. No. I think that they're just like, they're Marley's imitation of it, really. And he says, if someone controlled Marley from the shadows, I would tell them that it's already too late. Oh, and that's the thing. Just like the royal family, they are the true rulers of Marley. So I'm guessing that maybe not an Ackerman, but maybe their founder. Helos is their founder. The founder of the Tyburs. Way back when, perhaps. If not, Helos is either someone the Tybur family distinctly admires because it helped them get their place as rulers of Marley, or Helos is actually the founder who founded the Tybur family. One of the two. But yeah, Magath's like, it's too late to save Marley from being controlled by a specific royal family, which, that's funny, because Willy is an Eldian. So it's funny that this opens up a whole can of worms, right? Because the Tybur family are Eldians. But Magath is suggesting that the real family controlling the nation of Marley are the Tyburs, who are Eldians. So it's like the Tybur family has been riding on the fact that they're related to Helos, and they're like, hey, look, Helos freed you all from the Titan rule. They freed you all from the Eldian Empire, so you all owe Helos everything. So because you owe Helos everything, and we are the descendants of Helos, you're going to give us what we want. And we want to be established as the family of Marley. Like, they have their own army, they have all this wealth. When we see the VIP people coming in, they have all the relations with everybody abroad. Like, the Tyburs are the political family. They're like the royal family of Marley. And Magath's like, it doesn't matter what we do now. If anybody asks, Marley's already being controlled. It's being controlled by a royal family. It's just from the shadows. Kind of like the Reisses controlling inside Parody. The Reisses were controlling inside Parody while there was this false King Fritz on the throne, but it was really Rod Reiss and his family controlling from the shadows. It's paralleled with this group. Interesting. As you noted, this nation is controlled by the Tyburs. Right. But this path of warmongering was one that Marley chose on its own. So yeah, we need to talk about this. So Willy's saying, he's like, yeah, our family is controlling Marley. True. But this whole warmongering thing, y'all started. This was not our doing. You all started this whole path. Right. Willy says, we gave Marley both freedom and power in hopes of atonement. So basically the Tybur family just gave Marley the keys to enslaving all of its people, is kind of what he's suggesting. Which is kind of insane that and again, it ties back to the Reiss family. It ties back to Uri. It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing because you have Willy. Willy is suggesting that to atone for our sins and to give Marley freedom and power. They said to atone, we wanted to give freedom and power to Marley, right? But that meant enslaving our people. I'm going to need to, probably going to need to like flip this over because it's getting out of hand already. It's getting out of hand. So yeah, okay. Had to flip my board kun over. So yeah, so Willy is suggesting, so Willy and the Tyburs are connected to Helos. And he is suggesting that the Tybur, that Helos liberated Marley from the Eldians, from the Empire, right? And basically to atone, they gave Marley freedom and power at the cost of enslaving Eldia. Which is pretty messed up, right? It's pretty messed up. Like, they have this whole thing where, like, well, we're being the good guys and we're atoning, so we're going to let you enslave our people and give you freedom and power if you let us rule you. Kind of. Pretty much. It was that's the trade-off. We're going to give you power and freedom from the Titans if you let us be in charge. And yeah, you can enslave our people. It's fine. You can slave all the other Eldians. It's fine. Whoo. And then on the flip side of that, you have Uri, though. You have Uri and the Reisses. And there's not really any slavery in Parody like that when you think about it. Inside the walls, Uri's whole thing was that, I mean, Frida and them called them sinners. And so in the Founding Titans case, to atone, they isolated themselves. They isolated and created this faux utopia and just kept people in. And kept people in the dark. It's interesting. Like I said, I feel like Willy is the antithesis of Uri. Because Uri's whole thing was about creating a paradise, right? A paradise for everyone, right? Here's the thing. This is the big difference between them. Uri was all about creating a paradise for everyone in Parody. Like, we'll keep everybody inside the walls. It won't be perfect, but we won't have any Titan attacks. And we won't have any problems within the walls that are beyond our control. It won't be like the rest of the world. And so, yeah, that's problematic in some ways because we've established 3 seasons why that can be a problem. But Uri's whole thing was creating a paradise for all. Willy's thing seems like the Tyburs wanted to create a paradise for themselves. That seems to be the difference. And that's why I feel like he's the anti-Uri. They didn't care if their own people were enslaved by the Marleyan government. As long as they were safe and had paradise, it's fine. I feel like his character is going to be interesting. Right? So yeah, in the end, Eldian and Marley were both thrown into darkness. So it didn't work. Yeah, imagine that. So in the end, Eldia and Marley are in darkness. Okay. And Magath's just sitting there like, why am I listening to this? The Tyburs are responsible for that. I intend to reveal the truth to the world in the upcoming festival. So again, this is another antithesis, right? You have Willy wanting to reveal the truth, right? At a big festival in front of everybody, and you had Uri wanting to hide the truth from everybody. So you have these 2 opposing families that are doing things in very, very different ways. And it's very fascinating. I gave Reiss and Uri a big hard time back in season 3, but now I'm like, this makes me more creeped out than anything. So there's that. My coming to see the statue was no lie. Marley is in need of a hero. So according to Willy, Marley needs a hero. So Marley was able to be at the height of its fame back then when Helos defeated the Titans and saved Marley and became a hero then. So they're like, we need a revival of that. Marley needs a new hero. Someone that they can depend on and revere, right? Theo Magath, will you not join hands with me? And it's so insane because the Tybur guy, he is an Eldian and he's asking Magath to join hands with him. Like, he's in the position of power. That's the crazy thing, right? And Theo's like, the fudge? I can't read Theo at all in this conversation. I'm very curious what he's thinking. But yeah, who knew that Magath would be such a big character in all this so far? He's fascinating. I'm curious to see where his character goes to. So then we cut to this little brief interlude with Galliard and Peak. And yeah. And so Galliard and Peak's like, oh, excuse me? She's like, morning, Pock. And Galliard's like, the hell? I like this. Like, Peak, what are you doing? And she's like, this way is more natural to me. Did I scare you? Yeah, I mean, she's used to being on all fours. That's kind of like been her thing the last several months. And she just decided to take a nap. She seems like she's always tired. Peak's always tired. But again, they're in this big house by themselves. I'm like, Isayama, you're fooling nobody. Galliard and Peak are a thing. And he's like, can't you just walk upright? I'm like, dude, the girl's like probably banging you and you still getting on to her? Galliard, you prick. So, but again, I think it's Isayama's way of showing us, yeah, these 2 are together, just so you know. And that Peak's all about being comfortable. Can't say I blame her. So, this scene of Reiner with the map is so intriguing. This scene, again, this is the let's feel bad for Reiner episode. Because poor Reiner can't catch a damn break. He can't catch a break at all in this. And we'll talk about this. But we got this map of Parody, and they note all these different locations around the map, and we see the 3 walls, there, and then the port and everything. And so there's talking about Titans coming from the south. And I really like the angle that they show where it's like see-through. You can see Reiner and the sergeant's face from within. So Reiner is our only person who has been at parity other than Zeke. Zeke and Reiner, and well, Peak has too, but Reiner's been the only one actually inside the walls that's in that group. So he says the wall will be less defended the closer you get to the mountains up north. Yeah, they don't expect anything. So Reiner is, bless his heart, they established last episode that Reiner's the worst. And here, bless his heart, Reiner's trying, but all Reiner can really do is share information. He's like, Reiner's not a military strategist. He can just share what he knows, right? And he's trying so hard. Reiner is such a yes man to the Marleyans that he isn't offering his own independent thought about things. He's just telling them what he knows. And Galliard's going to get pissed about it. We'll talk about that. But so Reiner says, well, theoretically, they're least prepared for an attack at the north of the walls. And so the man's like, should we attack north? And Reiner's like, well, that's an option. We could do that, but the wharf is the only place where our large ships can dock, and that's in the south. So we'd have to go all the way around. We could press our advantage. And then the guy's like, okay, so then we go to the south. And Reiner's like, well, but the south is where our scout ships were lost. So it's where they're most focused. The wharf might also be destroyed, so we have to consider that. And the guy just gets so frustrated. He's like, so what are you trying to say? And Reiner's not really trying to say anything. He's just offering, I'm just sharing the information I gathered. And then, oh my god, this is so awful. But that guy's like, all right, enough. It was dumb to let an Eldian talk. I felt so bad for Reiner. Like, he just gets dismissed so easily. And Zeke's like, damn it, Reiner. And then Galliard's like, I hate this. And Peak's like, And Magath is still stewing on things, right? And so they all meet outside. And Galliard, in his pure, totally positive fashion, is like, man, the Parody Island playing is going just swell. The brass in charge is oh so intelligent. Can't wait to hear what they come up with. He's such a prick. And poor Reiner's just standing there like, what do you want from me? I feel so bad for Reiner. I've also noticed that Galliard does not dress with the same coats as them. He has his like bomber jacket, and he's all about that. And then Peak spitting some truth bombs. He's like, because Galliard's like, oh, I wonder what the top brass is going to come up with. And Peak's like, oh, you mean like entrusting the whole thing to 4 kids? Mic drop. Peak's like, drop the mic. Boom, baby. I'm done. Because she's right. They haven't come up with any good ideas either. And then she watches, and then as she's saying that, she's watching the 4 kids trudging ahead like Reiner and Bertholdt and Annie and Galliard and Marcel were. So yeah, she's not wrong. They've had some pretty bad ideas in the past. So I mean, and then in that moment, Falco catches up with her. And I love this shot of Reiner leaning over to watch and Colt. And this is where, and Zeke's in the background in the shadows, which is interesting. Zeke's in the shadows. But Falco pushes ahead of Gabi. And Reiner's surprised. And Colt is surprised. And then Galliard's like, look at him celebrate one little win. They have no idea. And then at this point, when Colt says, no matter how well Falco does at this point, he'll never surpass Gabi. That's when it suddenly hit me. I'm like, oh no. Oh no. No, see, here's the problem. You not only have Colt. Colt is trying to save Falco. But you have Reiner trying to save Gabi, and both of them are trying to use the other's relative to save their own family. So Colt's like, it's Colt and Falco, it's the opposite. It's exactly like Marcel and Galliard. Colt is being like Marcel. Colt's like, I don't want my brother to become a Titan shifter like me. So I'm going to use Gabi. And Reiner's like, I don't want Gabi to become a Titan shifter like me, so I'm going to use Falco. So they're using each other. Like, Falco is getting used, and Gabi are getting used in both senses from both of them. And that's so fascinating that they're side by side in this. And Falco's so proud of himself to win that one race. And so then this is interesting. So we have these two guards by the gate, and they come up and tell him that Falco finally beat Gabi, and they're like, and the guards are like, oh, in grades? And they're like, no, just a race. And so, you know, it would be a heartwarming scene if this wasn't like, you know, oppressive slavery. That's the problem. That's what makes this scene so weird. Because I was being like, oh, that's sweet. And then I'm like, wait, these guards are like leading them to their internment zone. Like, this isn't good. Like, so it's so bizarre. But it's such a bizarre moment because Falco's embarrassed by these guys. And the two guards are like, well, that's pretty awesome. Maybe you'll be the next Armored Titan. And then Gabi gets onto him and is like, no, it's too late to compete against me. I'm going to win. I made our motherland proud during the war already. Like, what are you going to do about it? And Falco's like, I know you have. But they haven't announced the successor yet. So it's still on the table. And he's like, until then, I'll do everything I can. And Gabi's like, why? And then, yeah, those guards are like, this kid's like showing off. And Gabi's like, your brother's already inherited the beast. So Gabi tries to shove it back in Falco's face, being like, your brother's already inheriting the Beast Titan. You'll already be an honorary Marleyan. Why are you doing it? But at the same time, I'm like, well, Reiner was an honorary Marleyan. I guess because when Reiner dies, then their family won't be honorary Marleyans anymore. So she's just trying to keep their family safe even further. Okay, so that explains Gabi's motivations a little bit more. And she's like, why do you care? What's the point of trying so hard? And at this point, Falco, in his blushing, is like, I'm doing it for you. And the guards are like, he totally said it. And at that point, I'm like, well, if this wasn't like, you know, these two guards watching over these kids in an internment zone, this would be a really sweet, heartfelt moment. But yeah, Falco finally confesses to Gabi that he's doing it for her. And it seems like everybody knows except for these two. Everybody's onto it. Like Sophie, and she's like, huh? You're getting in my way and you're getting in my way, but you're doing it for me? And she's like, that doesn't make any damn sense. And he's like, he's like, girls, they don't understand. And yeah, Udo and Sophie and the guards are like, these two are oblivious and they don't get that they like each other. But yeah, Falco's like, damn it, I'm doing it for you because I like you. And she's like, and yeah, Gabi's just oblivious. What gives? So then we have this little scene with like, welcome back warriors, and there's the cat, and there's all the different rice and everything with the breads and everything there. And so I'm assuming that these are just Eldians that are just hanging around there, right? I need to see, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're Marleyans. I want to see. Yeah, no, they have armbands. They're Eldians. Okay. So yeah. And so they're basically just running a little shop and giving them all. It's just like, it reminds me of Shiga and Sheena. This whole scene reminds me of Shiga and Sheena. And just like the parallels of how life is for these Eldians on the streets. It's very much like how Eren and Mikasa and Armin's life was. Like going from the food stands, getting the food, everything. Like it's all very reminiscent. And of course, they give them all the breads and the baguettes, and they're like, grow up to being big and strong like Vice Chief Braun. And it's like, okay. And yeah, it just comes across like you could see the different layers of the festival. I want to point out the two bands of ribbons. There's one that's like red and gold, and then there's one that's like Eren eye color green. It's like the red and green. We've had a big red and green theme in this show, and the banners are those colors. So interesting, right? But yeah, and so then they're building this big old theater stage, this theatrical stage. I got Moriarty the Patriot vibes in this episode. Very much Moriarty the Patriot vibes, especially when they're talking about the theater show. I'm like, oh, this is like Moriarty organization vibes for sure. And then I also got the vibes of like when they were building the stage for the coronation of Historia. I got that vibe from season 3. So Udo says, will they really declare war right here in the zone? So what the kids and everybody thinks is going to happen, and we're going to talk about this starting now, because around this point in the episode, we're about to the halfway point, and I'm like, this episode feels weird. It feels very weird. So the declaration of war, right? Udo notes that the declaration of war is Marley against parody. That's what we think that the declaration of war is. This whole thing was Zeke's design to get them all together to announce a declaration of war of Marley against Parity, that they're going to get the founding Titan back, right? And yeah, Zophi says this reminds me of a theater, and they're inviting all the VIPs here. That during the festival, after doing this festival, the world will be on our side. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Yeah. So then after this declaration, the world will be on Marley's side. Okay. Oh, I'm sure, you sweet summer child, that's exactly what's going to happen. They've just invited all the world's leaders to this big thing, this big dramatic theatrical production to announce like this declaration of war against Parity. Everybody's going to be totally kosher with it. And at this point, Isayama, you're not subtle. Having Udo say fantastic and pop the bag and pop the bubble's going to burst next episode, and I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified. Because, yeah, no, I was like, Isayama, you're not subtle. You're telling us that shit's about to go down. All of Marley's problems will magically go away. Nope. I find that hard to happen. And so he's kind of being sarcastic there. And Gabi's like, oh, you think it won't work? And he's like, you actually do? And so, yeah, so Udo's kind of being sarcastic in this moment. He's very much like us. He's like, oh yeah, we're going to declare war against Parity. The world's going to be on our side and all of our problems are going to go away. He's like, no, that's not going to happen. Because we find out that Udo's from abroad. He's from an internment zone abroad because Marley has occupied other countries. So he's from abroad, and he's like, the Mideast forces we were just slaughtering will be here. He's like, the people we've been fighting will be here. He's like, my family came from an internment zone abroad, so I know how awful it is. And he says from there, he's like, the hate for Eldians abroad makes here seem like nothing. So he's like, everybody hates us a lot worse overseas than they do here. So this whole declaration of war thing, they're fancying it up and making it look good, but he's like, it's not going to be fine. He's doubtful. And Gabi's solution is, well, then we just try something. We just try harder. She's like, we just make it to where that he's like, they might have chosen to hold it here because so people understand us. And so I do want to question that. She's like, we can show them we're not devils. I do want to question that. Why Tybur chose to host it here in the internment zone in Liberio. Why did he choose to host the whole thing here of all places? So I want to make a note here. Tybur was invited by Zeke. Okay? Tybur was invited by Zeke. And Tybur just had this big old spiel to Magath about how Helos liberated Marley and was a hero and atoned for his sins by giving his people freedom. So, and saying that Marley needs a hero. So I don't get good vibes. I get vibes like Tybur is planning something with Zeke against Marley, but I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. Because that's like, that could bite Zeke in the face so easily. So I don't know. I don't know if Tybur is working with Zeke, but also with himself. Is he working with Eren? Was one of those letters he sent to Tybur one of the letters that Eren sent to Tybur? I don't know. Like, I'm so curious, but it seems like I can't get a read on who Tybur is really working for. Is he working with Zeke? Is he working for himself? Is he working for Eren? Is he working for Marley? Is he working for the rest of the world? I feel like next episode we're gonna find out, but I don't know how to feel about it. I don't. It just, Willy gives me a very odd vibe, and I don't know how to feel about it. And Zeke has invited him to come do this whole elaborate presentation because Udo makes fun of Zeke's plan. Essentially, Udo's like, oh, we think we're going to just have this big gathering of all these people, tell them that we're invading Parity, and then the world will just leave us alone, and that's going to be our show of our power, and that's going to work. Yeah, I mean, it's a very clever plan on Zeke's part, but Udo brings up a good point about inviting all of your enemies in one location. And maybe it's VIP dignitaries. Maybe Tybur's going to kill them all. And I don't know what. I'm like, I don't know. It would make sense. Maybe Willy's going to like kill all the VIP people and be like, okay, world, we're serious. We're going to take over parity. And if y'all get in our way, this is what's going to happen. We're going to just wipe you out like we did these VIPs. I don't know. That's the one thing. Isayama's setting this up, but I don't know where it's going. And it's all starting to like, it's all like the little roller coaster cars like chinking up the tracks. And I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when we're going to drop. And he's like, but how? And Gabi's like, okay, smile. Show the world that they're wrong. Stop looking so smug. She's like, we're going to be the best people we can be. And she's like, Sophia, she's like, Sophia, cut out with your weird act. And Sophia's like, this is who I am. I love that Sophia's like, I've not been acting at all. This has been me this whole time. I like that she's just like, I'm introverted. I'm over here. What do you want from me? And I like that Udo's like, okay, what are you going to fix, Gabi? And then Gabi's like, I'm perfect. I'm perfect as is. She's like, I'm cute and I'm smart. I have no reason to change anything. I'll captivate the VIPs and secure my spot even more. Like, she's so dastardly, but I kind of love her. And then, yeah, I like that Sophie's like, no, she's like a devil, right? Mm-hmm. And then Gabi gets on to him for cheering on Falco, and they're like, definitely a devil. Mm-hmm. But then, yeah, then they spot Magath. Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, there's Magath, and there's Willy, and there's that larger-than-life bodyguard who's like a 6'8". I think he's the Warhammer. I think that the giant tall man is the Warhammer. I think that he's in the room. Ever since they walked in and saw that guard looking down at him, that freakishly tall guard, I think he's the Warhammer. I think, because it's like, you have your personal bodyguard with you. It seems too obvious that Willy is the Warhammer. It seems way too obvious. And there's a conversation coming up that for the longest time I was like, well, Willy's the Warhammer. But then I'm like, maybe the daughter's a Warhammer. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's the guard. But I don't think that it's Willy because of this commander coming up. This conversation. So Magath gives him a book. And a large-scale demolition is required. So, okay. So, what is this large-scale demolition? And what is this book? There's a book involved, this black book, a large-scale demolition. And so, he says, it has decayed beyond repair. Okay. Now, the question is, are they speaking in code? Are they speaking in code right now? And this is all just, they're speaking in code and planning something. And this is how they're communicating so no one's suspicious. So a large-scale demolition. See, this is what gets tricky. This is what gets tricky because it sounds like Tybur and Magath. See, Magath this whole time, the last couple episodes, Magath has been talking about how the Titans are waning, the power of the Titans are waning, and they're no longer the end all be all, and that Marley is going to, if Marley doesn't refocus its efforts, it's going to fall behind and it's going to be targeted and it's going to suffer. So it almost sounds like Magath wants to just eradicate the Eldians and be like, let's just forget about it and just do our own thing and not have to worry about him. But I don't know if that's entirely true because he's been relying upon the Titan powers. It's complicated. But this conversation, it's decayed beyond repair. If they're talking in code, then it makes me think a large-scale demolition means like get rid of the Titan shifters, get rid of all the Eldians, get rid of the internment zone, get rid of it. And then decayed beyond repair be like the system's broken. The system isn't working anymore. We're just wasting resources. Like, let's just scrap it and start over. Is what it sounds like to me, but... And he gives the book to that one tall dude who walks off. And he says, congratulations, General, the military is yours. So he's like giving Magath, and he says, no, the military serves the nation, and this nation's supreme commander is you. So Magath is like, yeah, you may have said that I'm in charge of the military, but it's your military, so you're the one in charge. And their backs are to each other. I get, like, it seems like Rod Reese Kinney vibes all over again, but I don't know what to make of it. Yeah, the Supreme Commander is you. And then I like this shot of the two of them with their backs to each other, and Willy says, that's not quite true. I'm simply the one who holds the wheel. So that metaphor, the idea of holding the wheel, that Tybur holds the wheel. He's the one that keeps it spinning. He's like, I keep the cycle going. He's like, I hold the wheel, I keep it turning, I keep the status quo, I keep everything going. And that could really tie to Rod Reese. It really ties to Rod Reese, it really ties to Uri, the idea of keeping the status quo. He's like, now I know why my predecessors never tried to grab it. It's so heavy. Ooh, I wish I could let go of this very moment, but a time has come where I must not. So he's like, my predecessors didn't hold the wheel before, but now I have the wheel in my control. He's like, the ball's in my court. My predecessors didn't have this opportunity that I have, but I do. And now that I have the wheel, I can't let go of it because it's too heavy. It'll all crumble and fall. He's like, the time's come when I can't let go of the wheel. It just happened to be me. Damn. He's a very theatrical person, Willy is. Very theatrical. And what do you say? I'm simply the man this responsibility fell upon. Which that is very Rod Reese logic. That's very Rod Reese logic, where Willy is saying the same thing as Rod. He's like, it's beyond my control. For Rod, it was the will of a higher power. For Willy, it's like, it's the wheel that is reality, and I can't escape from it. So both Rod and Willy are just driven by fate and faith. And then what does Magath say next? He says the house was in danger of collapsing, but some pillars remained usable. Again, cryptic. So cryptic. The house is in danger of collapsing, but some pillars are usable. Meaning that this whole system is in danger of just completely self-imploding, but there is some people we can trust, right? So I'm wondering what he's referring to there. This whole conversation was just all in a big code, but he's saying there's some people we can trust, and there is some stability there, but it's in danger. According to them, the house is already infested with rats. Meaning that there's a lot of corruption already there. But we don't know who them is. According to them, who is them? Who says it? Who is them? Who are the rats? What's going on? Why are you speaking in code, Magath? And then we cut to Falco and Kruger. So I don't understand the secret code. I want to know what Magath and Willy are up to. And I'm assuming we're going to find that out next episode. Ha ha ha. But sure. But there's some code there. The house is infested with rats. And it's good. A large-scale demolition decayed beyond repair. Okay. Something's up. Something's up. I don't like it. I don't like it, Isayama. I don't like what you're playing here. I don't like this mysterious game you're playing. No. And so then Falco says, all thanks to you, Kruger. But at this point, I can't pass up Gabi. So Falco, we cut back to him and Eren, and Falco is telling Eren that he's like, well, it's because of you I was motivated to do better, and I beat her in the race. But at this point, I'm not going to be able to pass her up. Like, I'm going to keep moving forward, though. Aw. And then Eren says, I'm the one who should be thanking you, though. It's so sweet. I love that. I'm grateful you've been sending all my letters. You've been a big help. It's like, Falco, you don't even know what you've done. I don't even know what you've done, but it's probably something that Falco's not going to be happy about later. Oh, crud. Go back to this. Oh no. Let me go back. The episode quit on me. Okay. And then, yeah, Falco's like, I'm really glad to have helped you. And then he asks about, did your family send that? And then, so they sent him a baseball glove and a baseball. And he said they thought it'd make hospital life less boring. So, again, this episode, mystery items, mystery secret code talk. Isayama, what are you doing? This whole episode is just filled with just secret stuff. You're a bunch of secret keepers. And I don't like it. Because I'm like, what is happening? I don't understand. So, I'm going to cut out this part here so we know that about Falco and Reiner and them. So the baseball glove with the baseball. Okay. The only thing I could think of was Zeke when this happened. And he's like, they thought I'd make hospital life less boring. But they sent him a glove. So I'm trying to think of all the things that a glove could mean. Like they've caught something. Maybe they've caught someone. Maybe that's it, that they've caught somebody. That they've played catch and they've caught somebody to interrogate, and that's the signal, if that's the message. But it also made me think of Zeke, right? Hard to do much in this shape, though. I need to move forward, too. And he says, when the festival's over, I'm going back to my hometown. Shit! Oh my god! So we don't know how long they've been in Marley. We have no clue how long that Eren and all of them have been in Marley. We have no idea. They could have been here for 3 years. They could have been here for a year. We don't know. But Eren establishes that he's going back to Parody, to his hometown. He's going back to Shiganshina when the festival's over. I'm assuming to prep for war. Like you do. I don't know, though. I don't know. Isayama, why? Why are you? I've never felt so. I'm not lost. I'm not confused. But Isayama is intentionally being vague. He's intentionally being vague because he's setting shit up. And I'm like, Isayama, why can't you just be? There's been a difference. Like, there's been times when Isayama has been like, he's put forth blatant foreshadowing and blatant clues that kind of give you an idea that something's going to go down. And he does so here, but it's so vague, you don't know what it means. And it's like one of the first times, my dog's like stretched out here. It's like one of the first times I know Isayama's laying down symbols, but they don't have a context yet. And the thing of it is, I know they're going to have a context in a couple episodes, but we're not there yet. And it's frustrating. So yeah, but I thought of Zeke. So that makes me think, I'm like, does Zeke know that Eren is there? Does Zeke know? Is Zeke communicating with Eren? Because when I think of baseball, I think of Zeke because of the pitch. Or maybe the baseball glove is meaning that they have the Beast Titan in their sights. I don't know. Yeah. And Falco's like, okay, I see, you're going back home. And then he says, a doctor's coming. Okay, so Falco doesn't know the doctor. He just knows the lab coat. And he's like, I gotta get going. And then Eren, like, sees him off. And so then there's this moment. This moment when old Dr. Yeager sits next to Eren and doesn't even realize it's his grandson. Holy crap. Yep. And they look at each other, and God, yeah, and the eyes, like Eren has Carla's eyes, but Grisha's eye color, and so then old Yeager, I'm a physician for the zone. I come here to drink tea sometime. Which that should have gave me the impression that something was off when he first said that, because I'm like, why would you come to the hospital to drink tea? Why would you go to a bench outside the hospital to drink tea? There's plenty of like office space inside. You could probably do that. So that threw me off at first that something was up. But yeah, I'm a physician for the zone. And he says, nice to meet you. I'm Kruger. And then, yeah, and they talk about it. And, oh my God. Just the idea of Eren with his grandfather. And Eren's like, I think I could get along with him too. And he's like, I sit here on this bitch looking for people to talk to. His uncle was a leader of the Eldian restorationists. So yeah, so Falco's uncle was Grice, was the Grice that Grisha knew, his uncle. And God, that shot of Eren just like with his grandfather, it's the craziest thing. It's so insane. Restorationists are sent to paradise and are not, even their family is spared. To protect their family, he and his brother trained to be warriors. So yeah, so Eren's getting all kind of intel just sitting on this park bench. He's getting all kinds of information. So he's learning that Falco and his brother trained to be warriors to save the rest of their family. Kind of like what Zeke did, which makes sense why Colt is inheriting Zeke's Titan. They kind of were under the same circumstances. Interesting. When his brother was chosen to inherit the Beast Titan, that's when the Grice family knew they were finally safe. And Eren's just like listening to him. And then he's like, why are you telling me this? And that's when the guy's like, stop asking the boy to do favors for you, because if he's found out, then their family's going to get in trouble and all their effort will be for nothing. Oh, and if you're truly healthy, you should go back to your family. And it's like, well, funny that, because he's right here with you. He's right here with his family. Oh my God, this moment, just like this confrontation. And he says, someday you won't see them anymore, and don't wait and live with regret. And that's when the staff notices that he's out there with him. And at that point, I was like, I don't understand why they're pointing at him. But it's because he's a patient. He's not a doctor there. He's like mentally gone cuckoo from losing Grisha. From losing his daughter and Grisha. And it makes sense that so he was able to leave and go see Zeke, though, but the wife was with him. So maybe under supervision, he's allowed to leave and go see Zeke, right? But then he goes back to the hospital, like to do therapy or something like that. And he has a point of regression. And then, yeah, and Eren's saying, do you have regrets about your own family? And at that moment, it's like, is this all Eren that's talking, or is there some of Grisha inside of him that's talking? Saying, do you have, because Eren, I've noticed this about Eren's eyes the entire time. The only time that Eren has shown any sign of seeming remorseful, or not remorseful, Eren, the only time his eyes have had like a glimmer of life in them was when Falco first mentioned that Gabi was going to inherit the armor titan. That's the first time that Eren's eyes had that little glimmer in them, like Reiner. And then the rest of the time, they've all been like dead shark eyes. Like he's had the dead Dazai eyes, like most of these episodes, which is discouraging because that makes me a little worried about Eren. And then, yeah, he says, there's not a day that I don't have regrets. And then I love this. My son took my daughter outside the walls. And it's because I was too strict about him becoming a doctor. Like he blames himself for all of it. And he just goes crazy. It's my fault. Everything was my fault. Yep. And he just loses it. And Eren just stares at him. And they're like, Mr. Yeager, please don't go around on your own. So yeah, Mr. Yeager's a patient there. He's a patient at the hospital. Like he said, all this mental trauma from what's happened. And so when he saw Zeke earlier, it's because his wife was with him. Oh my gosh. And then she's like, I'm so sorry I looked away for a second. The nurse does. And they escort him back away, saying everything will be all right. Oh my God. And then Eren looking down at the baseball. So the question is, the baseball and the glove, is it tied to Zeke? Is it tied to the idea of catching something and going home? Is it tied to him reconnecting? Is it tied to Grisha reconnecting with his father? Because usually, you think of baseball, at least in the U.S., you think of baseball, you think of playing catch with your dad or something. So I'm like, was it about Eren reconnecting with his father? Was it about Grisha reconnecting with his father? Is it about catching a titan shifter? Like, what's the message? Again, Isayama's planning these symbolic things, and I know they're going to make sense later on. They just don't at the moment. That's the problem right? And he throws the ball up, and there it goes. So, okay, intermission card. Information available for public disclosure. The Tybur family. Good. We're finally getting to this. A family of nobles that revolted against Eldia in the Great Titan War 100 years ago. They joined hands with the Marleyan hero Helos to overcome the Eldian Empire and bring it into the war. As nobles who have long possessed the Warhammer Titan, they have guided Marley for many years and hold significant influence both domestically and abroad. Currently, Willy Tybur is the head of the family. So, okay, the Tyburs were Eldians, and they joined hands with the Marleyan hero Helos. So Helos was a Marleyan and teamed up with the Warhammer Titan to take down, to overcome the Eldian Empire and bring it into the war. So Helos and the Warhammer Titan are the reason that the Founding Titan ran away. The Founding Titan, the Attack Titan ran away, and the other Titans were subdued by the Warhammer. That makes me worried, because it makes me think like the Warhammer's really strong. I don't like that. I don't like this mysterious... Isayama is doing a very good job of building up the Warhammer. It's going to be hilarious if it, like... I don't know what to think, because I thought when they were like, Levi's going to face the Beast Titan, I'm like, oh, well, Levi's going to get blown away. And then that didn't happen. So I don't know what to think about the Warhammer, but I like the idea that the Tybur family kind of reveres this Marley and Helos, and they've basically been living in this sense of nobility. And Marley, of course, lets the Tyburs do whatever they want because they're the reason they were liberated in the first place. But again, that implies that Tyburs revolting against their own people, they were totally okay with enslaving Eldia. They're totally fine with it. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. But anyway, so we go to the big festival, the big night of the festival, the night of the banquet. It's the night before the big theatrical show. And all the VIPs from around the world have visited. And the children make a game out of picking up all the glasses and plates. They make a big game out of it because they're kids and this is fun. Like, we can do all these cool things and get them new drinks and everything. We'll show them what great hosts we are. It'll be wonderful. Right? And then, of course, it's so sad because these kids are trying to have fun and make a game out of it and do the best they can to leave a good impression for the rest of the world. And then you have these two assholes who are like, oh, there's filthy blood touching our plates. Ugh, I hate it. That explains why the food stinks. And Udo, for a second, Udo gets mad and he's like, we're trying to help you and you're making a big scene of it. And he shifts and gets the wine on the kimono of the woman. The woman who's from the Eastern clan. And she saves him. She's like, don't make a fuss. And he's like, but your fancy clothes. And she's the only one in the kimono. And then everybody's like, are you okay, madame? And she says, oh, it was fine. She takes the glass from him and she's like, oh, how embarrassing. I spilt wine on my kimono and I was asking for help. And the guy takes him away and she thanks him. And she's from the Eastern, she's the Eastern dignitary because they're like, yeah. And she's like, who knows what would have happened to you? Oh, like she saved his life. And yeah, and they turn back and look at her. She knew I was an Eldian and she saved him. Mm-hmm. And that woman, I think she's an Easterner from Hizuru. Cool. So she has the mark that she has on her. Wait. She has like a symbol. I'm trying to she has a symbol on the back of her kimono. Okay, there's something to that. Okay, so there's something to that because there's something to that. It's the Isayama rule of 3. It's the triangles. It's the rule of 3, right? Okay, we got Hizuru, Eastern clan. She has a symbol on the back of her kimono, and it's, at first I thought it was a triangle. I'm like, oh, it's just a triangle. It's 3 swords. It's 3 swords together. Trio of 3, 3 swords. She's an Easterner. She's probably related to Mikasa somehow. Don't you spoil me. I I'm making a mental note. I'm like, okay, this woman that's super kind, that's really nice. She's from the Eastern clan. She's from an Eastern area, because this is like a mirror of Earth. And on the back of her kimono and she knows about the Eldians, and she was defending them. And on the back of her kimono is a symbol that are 3 swords put together. Again, Isayama, he's planting little seedlings of foreshadowing that I know are gonna like explode in the next couple episodes. And I'm like, Isayama, what are you doing? Oh my god. But yeah, everybody's just whining and dining, playing the violin, and then in comes Willy. Willy, kin of our saviors. Kin of our saviors. So again, we talked to the idea that Willy very much has like a Lucifer vibe to him. I feel like Lucifer has like an Anti-Christ Lucifer vibe to him. Willy does, because everybody loves him, right? And then the one guy is like kin of our saviors, like basically establishing that the Tyburs saved the world from the Eldian Empire. The Tyburs, who are Eldians, they teamed up with Helos and they saved the world by stopping the Eldian Empire from taking over everything. So they're heroes, right? And Willy wants to create a new hero for Marley, whatever that looks like. So then this guy comes up and says, kin of our saviors. And they say, Ambassador Aguino, long time no see. And then Nambia, we were kids the last time I saw you. So he's, the Tyburs, they know everybody. They're like, and then the one guy has like a cut on his arm from when he fell out of a tree. Like all these dignitaries, like the Tybur family have all grown up, like meeting all the world's dignitaries. They're like the royal family. They're literally like the royal family. And they just go around meeting all these dignitaries, and everybody loves Willy. Yep. And then that's when, so this guy that brings them all together, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you all for coming tonight. This guy, I'm assuming he's the Marley representative, right? And yeah, he's the Marley representative. And what he says, he's like, until recently we were squabbling over resources in an unsightly war. However, yesterday's enemies is today's enemy. I was like, that was in such poor taste. I'm like, was that supposed to be a joke? Or did you just slip of the tongue? Was it meant to be humorous? Because nobody finds it humorous. Everybody is like, instantly like, excuse me? And he's like, oh, pardon me. Yesterday's enemy is today's friend. And nobody's having it. And they're like, let's wash the past down the toilet with our drinks. Like, he's so crass. Like, he's awful. And nobody's happy about that, right? Raise your glasses and join me for a toast to everlasting peace. And nobody toasts him. So this is again commenting on what Magath was talking about with him and Willy earlier, because Willy comes in and he's like, oh, thank you so much. Such an elegant joke to amuse our guests. And then as soon as he shows up, he's like, I'm afraid our guests didn't quite understand, so allow me to take over. He's like, go over there. Stand over there. Get out of the way. And then everybody's like, oh my God, Willy, kin of our saviors. Oh my God, we love you. You're handsome. Like, they instantly like change their tune. They're like, oh my God, he's hot. Let's listen to him. But here's the thing. It's like Magath was pointing out to him on the other side of Whiteboard Coon. It's like Magath was pointing out to him. Yeah, Willy is the statue of Helos. Willy is the brave and beautiful without a flaw. And Magath's like, yeah, you look like that, but we're hollow inside. And it's empty. It's just a facade, right? And the man that just gave the toast that like was so crass and rude is actually Marley. And Willy is just the fake veneer surface, the gloss over it, trying to smooth everything over. But even Willy can't hide the fact that that other guy exists. Like, the real Marley is there. Willy is just the shiny gloss over it that tries to distract you. It totally is. It's kind of crazy. And he gets kind of serious there. He says, tomorrow I'll invite all of you to the Liberio internment zone. And it is the home of a people whose blood runs through me. The ones called devils for slaughtering a great number of people, the Eldians. Like what you call, though once repressed more greatly than any. Marley has used the devils to oppress other nations and repeat the tragedy. Interesting. I understand the desire to exterminate the Eldians. So here we go. But I have arrived at a single solution that will answer this endless problem. A single solution is going to answer this endless problem. Okay. So yeah, just okay. Because he's like, I understand the desire to exterminate the Eldians, but... So that makes it sound like he doesn't want to exterminate the Eldians. He's like, I get that y'all want to kill all the Eldians, but I found a solution. So old Willy has a solution that will solve all the problems. So I'm assuming if we're going with Zeke's plan, that Willy's going to announce that they're going to take over Parody, get the Founding Titan and everything. And then I don't know what he's going to do with that. But I guess we'll see. But yeah, this endless problem. And tomorrow I will reveal that solution at my first ever theater production. Gee, wow, your first ever theater production. I've been in theater before. Opening night's not always the best. Opening night, you can have a lot of mistakes happen. A lot of errors can happen on opening night. Not usually the night you want to film. So, I'll reveal that solution at my first ever theater production. I don't get good vibes from this at all. No, to the great playwrights and witnesses of history. So yeah, this whole thing about, I'm getting Moriarty the Patriot vibes. The whole idea of theater and playwrights. And the idea that Zeke wants a narrator for their cause. It could go in so many ways. I feel like there's a double cross coming. I feel it in my bones that there's a double cross coming. That I don't trust Willy. I don't trust him at all. I think he may be a crackpot in disguise. I don't know, but I don't trust Willy. I don't like this idea of this solution. I know that Zeke has framed it as, okay, we're going to attack Parody. But when Zeke was describing it, here's the problem. When Zeke was describing it in 2 episodes ago, he was framing it like we need a narrator. So we'll have the Tybur guy make an announcement at this festival that we are going to attack Parody and secure the Founding Titan and gain these resources. So we're going to do that to stop the devils, and we're going to do that to stop the devils within the walls from possibly taking over the world, and we're going to save everyone. So maybe that is what he's suggesting. He's going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to attack Parody, get the Founding Titan, and then we'll make it to where the Titans within the walls that everybody's afraid of will never attack you, and you guys can thank us. That kind of makes sense, because then Willy will be like, we'll be the saviors of the world once again. Okay, we'll be the saviors of the world once again. Marley needs a hero. We'll be the saviors again, and the world will revere us as they once did. Because everybody really likes Willy, and Willy's kind of the embodiment of Helos from back then. It's like the world revered us back when Helos saved them all from the Eldian Empire. So it sounds like that Willy is going to frame Parody as the Eldian Empire, and he's like, we're going to save you all from them by going over, attacking them, getting the Founding Titan back, and saving you all. But the thing is, then you all will revere us, and we'll have the ultimate power in the situation. So it's like a win-win for Marley, right? Maybe that's the way I'm interpreting it, but there's just something about all of this that seems like something's being set up that's not going to go the way that Zeke has framed it. And I can't put my finger on it, and it's bugging me. It's bugging me that something's amiss. To the playwrights and witnesses of history. And Gabi sees it, and then we get that. I'm going to take a picture of that. We get the framing of that damn statue. The statue of Helos stabbing the Titan. With that big old hat on. Looks very much like an Ackerman. I'm just saying. It's very similar. I don't know. And so then, yeah, we cut to Gabi sleeping. And then I love the festival noises. Like, she just jumps up and she's like, what? I love she's like just a gremlin. It's so good. And then all of the festival like comes to life, and it's all in the city, and there's music, and it's very Shigen Shina, there's oysters, there's mochi. It's all great. There's all this food, like all this like cultural festival. It's all there. This is like gonna be the cultural festival from hell, isn't it? Isn't this gonna be the cultural festival from hell? Is it? God, no. Yeah, she's like, what in the world? And then I love that Falco has like the ice cream and drool dripping from him. He's like, Gabi, you're up. Look what we found. Ice cream. And Zofie's like, I'm eating it. I didn't even wait on you. And Falco like just like shoves it into her face. I absolutely love it. It's so cute. He just like, and she's like, oh my God, sugar. She's like, this is a festival? And then they're just kids. It's like Isayama gives us this beautiful, like heartwarming moment with them all at the festival. It's like, these are fun times. I know how this series works. It's going to give us these fun times, and then shit's going to go down. And then, yeah, Galliard and Reiner's so much taller than Galliard and Peak. They see all the kids, and they have, like, the bags. Oh, they have the bags to get food, but they're like, we don't have any money. So, Reiner's a damn softie. Reiner's such a softie, he can't resist their little faces. Okay, this next part may be one of my favorite parts of the whole episode. This montage of them getting the waffles, and there's Galliard eating. They're all eating the waffles. Peak is like, whatever, and Reiner's paying for it. Then they go to the sandwiches. Galliard's teasing about eating the sandwiches. Peak is watching him. Reiner is paying for it. And then they go to the pizza. They're all eating the pizza. Even Peak. And Reiner's paying for it. Oh my God. Reiner's just like, I have no money left. Like, they just used Reiner to get his money and for him to pay for it. But you know what? He sees Gabi be happy for once and being able to be a kid. And my heart, like Reiner looking down at her and seeing her get to be a child, like for one time in her life, like to have this happy moment with her friends, eating like all this food at this festival, and that soft smile. Okay, give me my simp for Reiner badge. I'm ready. I'm ready to join the cause. I volunteer as tribute. I will meet up every Thursday at 5, because that's just like the sweetest thing ever. God, that soft smile is so heart-wrenchingly wholesome. Sad that it's the last time we'll ever see Reiner smile like that, probably. Because the rest of this episode happens. So yeah, and then we have the sun setting. As it always does, the sun goes down. The sun goes down, and all the reds. It's very interesting. And then, yeah, Reiner literally dragging her. Like, her belly is stuffed, and he's literally dragging his cousin. And then there's Udo and Zofie and all them. I love it. And I love the tie of Udo. Udo with Galliard is interesting because their personalities, they kind of like that fiery, like Spitfire personality. So Galliard and Udo makes sense. And then Zofie and Peak makes sense. So I wonder if that's who they're lining up to eventually take their place. Is that Zofie would take Peak's place and Udo would take Galliard's. Interesting. And then Gabi says, it seems like a lot of new things have been happening. And he's like, yep, I had a dark moment earlier today, but it's fine. It does. She's like, it kind of feels like something's about to change. And he's like, yep. And I was like, At this point, I was like, Isayama, you're not subtle. You've been subtle and vague this entire episode, and now you choose to be deliberate and be like, something's about to happen. Isayama was like, I got my hand on the pen. Ready? It does. And then we have the after credit scene. So we need to talk about the after credit scene. Okay. So there's this giant theater. And there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of people spread out in this theater for as big as they made it. And we have it looks like the Tybur symbol, but it's purple. Interesting. And so yeah, Colt and Zeke always smoking that cigarette. He's like, did you guys have fun? So this is later that evening. And they're like, where's Falco? And they said he saw someone he knew and ran off. And Colt's like, what's the matter with him? So he saw Eren. And Colt's like, that's weird. And then, yeah, Gallard says, can't you just loosen up for one day? It's like famous last words, right? Uh-huh. And she's like, there's so many people. And then Pete notices that he's back. And that's when he, like, goes to get Mr. Braun. Mr. Braun! And he's like, can you come with me? And he's like, right now. And Zeke, famous last words. It'll be fine. It shouldn't start for a bit. Oh, if only you knew, right? And so, yeah, okay, we get the Tybur. The Tybur symbol is a shell. It's like a seashell. Again, tying back to the shell at the end of episode 22, right? Or maybe it's an oyster. Maybe it's like there's a pearl inside the oyster. Interesting. But yeah, they're like, go ahead, it'll be fine. What could possibly happen in the next 5 minutes? And then Reiner's like, he's like, you'll see soon enough. It's a surprise. I at this point, I was like, oh God, he's going to lead him to Eren. That's what he's doing. And the call back to Smile of going down into the basement, because Reiner hesitates for just a second. He's like, it's in here. And Reiner's like, do I really go into this cellar, into this dark cellar underground where I can't transform? Do I do that? With Falco there? Because here's the thing. Reiner will not transform down there because Falco's there, right? Because if he transforms down there, there'll be a cave-in and Falco will probably die. So Eren's playing his cards right. He's like, he knows that Reiner cares about Falco. And as long as Falco's down there, Reiner isn't going to transform. So, and they draw Reiner so good in this show. Like that look of him at the doorway with the shadows on him. He looks so damn good. And then he says, okay, because he trusts Falco. Annie didn't trust Armin and the others. She'd figured out it was a trap. And so she didn't trust them to go down in the basement. But Reiner trusts Falco. And then lanterns! Lanterns 2.0, baby! The lantern had been lit for Reiner. It had gone out last episode when his hopes were gone. And the lantern is back on. Meaning that the knowledge is about to spread, y'all. It's about to go down. Oh my God. And then that leg being amputated. I want explanations about that for sure. And then he's like, I brought him like you asked. Oh my God. Hey, I was really hoping that Eren said, hey, got a minute? I was really hoping that was going to be the case, but no. It's been 4 years, Reiner. And he's just like, oh shit. Oh my God! It's fine. It's just Eren looking at him. It's totally cool. Nothing to worry about. No worries here. Everything's fine. Oh my God. Nope. And so what are Reiner and them going to talk about? Who knows? Yeah, so anyway. I just this episode. This episode is the biggest setup. It is the biggest setup, and I don't feel comfortable about it. I feel like it's about to hit the fan in the next episode, and I'm not ready. Because, yeah, you're going to have Eren confronting with Reiner while this festival's going on with all the VIPs there. They can't make a scene because all the dignitaries are there. Everybody's above ground. Tybur's going to give this presentation saying God knows what, and Falco's down there with the two of them, so I've never been more excited for an episode, because this whole episode was just Isayama just setting it all up for us. But I've never been more excited for an episode. Y'all, oh my God. So yeah, we'll see, right? We shall see. So I'm curious to know your reaction to your comments down below. Please don't spoil me. Holy cow. But yeah. So next episode 5. Pretty excited, right? We're not to episode 6 yet. I've got my rule of 6 on Attack on Titan, but we're leading up to it, so we're a fourth of the way through the season. Okay? Cool. We've it's not, if you're looking at it as a 3-act structure, I guess it's weird. Like, at what point do you end the 3 acts? Because you've got, in a 3-act structure, if there was 12 episodes, it would be after the 4th episode, right? Which would be now. But this part is 16 episodes. So, but I guess I would almost consider this the end of Act 1. Right? You've set up Act 1. You've set up our main characters. We've set up Reiner's condition. We've set up Falco and Gabi and the others. We've set up what Zeke's been doing and the whole thing with Colt and Galliard and Peak. We've set up Reiner as a main character in all this, and we've set up what Eren's been doing. And so I guess this would be the end of Act 1. And now, what do we do for Act 2? I don't know. So we'll find out soon, though, won't we? So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back real soon with episode 5 of Attack on Titan.